That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
3 minutes ago, Thomas Massie did something that will force Washington to answer questions it has been avoiding for years. He didn't play political games. He didn't waste time with small talk. He stood up in a congressional hearing, looked Kash Patel directly in the eye, and asked the one question that nobody in power wants to confront. Have you actually read the Epstein Files? The answer wasn't clear, and that uncertainty is exactly why this moment will be replayed on every major channel by tonight. Watch this entire video, because when you see what Massie pulled out of that folder and what Patel's face did when those names were read out loud, everything will make sense. And if you're new here, subscribe right now and hit that bell icon, because this story is about to explode and you need to be the first to know every single development. Let me set the scene. House Judiciary Committee oversight hearing, mid-afternoon session. It was supposed to be routine. Budget questions, operational updates, counterterrorism briefings, the usual Washington theater where nothing real ever gets said. Kash Patel walked in with his usual confidence, 3 lawyers flanking him, 2 aides carrying briefcases. That walk he does, shoulders back, chin up. The I've handled worse than this stride. He has been through dozens of these hearings. He knows how to deflect, how to run out the clock, how to give answers that sound like answers but say absolutely nothing. He thought today would be the same. He was wrong. Thomas Massie was waiting. For those who don't know Massie, here's what you need to understand. This man doesn't ask questions he doesn't already know the answers to. MIT graduate, engineer, libertarian in the truest sense. The kind of congressman who reads every bill, questions every vote, and doesn't care if his own party hates him for it. They call him Mr. No because he'll vote against anything that doesn't pass his internal logic test. He is not interested in optics. He is interested in truth. And today he brought receipts. The first 45 minutes of the hearing were standard procedure. Other members asked their questions. Cybersecurity protocols, Chinese espionage concerns, domestic terrorism statistics. Patel gave his polished non-answers, checked his notes twice, looked relaxed. He thought he was in control. Then Massie's time came. The shift in energy was immediate. You could feel it, that electric tension when everyone in the room knows something is about to happen. Massie didn't smile, didn't do the usual pleasantries. He just opened a folder, thick, red, tabbed with colored markers, and he started talking. Director Patel, I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The room went quiet. The first one, Massie continued. His voice calm, almost conversational, is titled Jeffrey Epstein's 6th story played out for years in plain sight. In this article, former U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta is quoted saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." He paused. Let that sink in. Leave it alone. Those 3 words. The second document is entitled What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections. The third, from Fox Digital. Epstein's private calendar reveals planned meetings with Obama admin official, CIA chief. And the last one, a Wall Street Journal article highlighting Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, former Prime Minister of Israel, head of military intelligence. Massie looked up from the papers. Without objection, these documents enter the record. Patel's expression didn't change, but his hands, watch his hands, they shifted slightly on the table, fingers pressing down just a little harder. Massie wasn't done, not even close. Director Patel, I watched your Senate hearing yesterday. Senator Kennedy asked you a very direct question. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? And you replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. Massie leaned forward. That answer is interesting to me, Director, because it contradicts what is actually in your files. The temperature in the room dropped. Patel tried to respond, but Massie kept going. You also said that the problem is the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. That is true for the Southern District of Florida, but those constraints don't apply to the Southern District of New York, do they? The location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, the indictment that produced thousands of pages of material, the indictment that generated a series of FD-302 documents. Massie pulled out another sheet, FD-302S. For those watching who don't know, these are FBI interview summaries. Formal records, not rumors. Not speculation, official documentation of what witnesses told federal agents under oath. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, Massie said his voice steady, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, Director Patel, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to victims, including minors. One of them was Virginia Roberts Giuffre. May she rest in peace. The room was frozen. You could hear the cameras clicking, reporters typing frantically on their phones, committee members glancing at each other with expressions ranging from shock to finally someone said it out loud. Massie wasn't finished. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals. One Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million. One royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry. One very prominent banker. One high-profile government official. One high-profile former politician. One owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. He looked directly at Patel. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Patel tried to interrupt. Congressman, the constraints I mentioned, Massie cut him off. Have you launched any investigations into these individuals? Silence. 20 seconds of pure, unbroken silence. In a congressional hearing, 20 seconds is an eternity. It is the witness admitting they have no answer. It is the moment everyone watching realizes they're witnessing something that will be referenced for years. Patel finally spoke. His voice was quieter now, more defensive. Congressman, it is not my assertion that these victims aren't credible. It is the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials. Massie shook his head. That is not what I asked. Are the FD-negative 302 documents in the FBI's possession? Yes or no? Patel hesitated. Yes. Have you reviewed those FD-negative 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them? If I personally know, but the FBI has. Massie leaned back. So how can you sit in front of the Senate and say there are no names when you personally haven't even read the files? Patel's jaw tightened. That muscle below his ear was working overtime now. Congressman, we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice or the FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible, I assume you mean not credible, information. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have. Massie's expression didn't change. Okay, I've got to move on here. Were you present when the Attorney General had that White House event where she released binders to social media influencers? Patel nodded. I was yes. So if you are willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well? The question hung in the air like a physical thing. You could see people in the gallery reacting, nodding, a few audible whispers. Patel looked at his lawyers. They had nothing. No note being passed, no whispered advice. He was on his own. The FBI will meet with anyone who has information. He said finally, will you personally meet with them? Massie repeated. The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will. That is not what I asked. The exchange was becoming uncomfortable now. The kind of discomfort that makes good television because it is real. Massie pivoted. Were you instructed that it was important to release these documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files? Patel blinked. I don't know what day that was, so no. Massie's voice hardened just slightly. Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names that weren't redacted because you were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that, Director. Another silence. Patel had no response. Then came the question that will define this entire hearing. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you? This is where it gets critical. Patel's answer was careful, almost too careful. I can speak for the FBI, and that is presuming there is a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI that was provided to us. Massie pressed. Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? If there is such a file, Patel said slowly, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads. Notice the language. If there is, if it is not conditional, uncertain, non-committal. That is the language of someone who either doesn't know or doesn't want to say Massie didn't push further on that point. He'd made his point. The uncertainty was now on the record. Instead, he shifted. Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation from the 6th of January? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter? Patel looked almost relieved to be on different ground. On the first, it is an ongoing investigation, and we have made progress as to the second, sir. I'll have to get back to you. Massie nodded. All right, thank you. I yield back. And just like that, it was over 5 minutes. 5 minutes to dismantle months of carefully constructed talking points. 5 minutes to expose the gaps in the narrative. 5 minutes to put 20 names, a CIA file, and a list of questions on the permanent congressional record. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Twitter exploded. TikTok was flooded. News channels interrupted their regular programming. Legal analysts were already debating whether Massie had just set up a paper trail for future subpoenas. And in FBI headquarters somewhere, people were scrambling to figure out how to respond to questions that weren't supposed to be asked in public. Let me explain why this matters so much. For years, the Epstein story has been treated like a black hole. Everyone knows something is there, but nobody can see it clearly. The files exist, but they're classified. The names exist, but they're redacted. The investigations happened, but they led nowhere. Massie just changed that dynamic. He didn't leak classified information. He didn't break any rules. He simply used publicly available sources, official testimony, and basic logic to demonstrate that the system is protecting something or someone. And he forced the FBI director to either confirm or deny specifics. Patel couldn't do either convincingly. That is the breakthrough. It is not about proving guilt. It is about proving that the questions are legitimate, that the materials exist, and that the people in charge haven't done what they claim they've done. Massie put Patel in an impossible position. If Patel says he has read everything, then he has to explain why no one has been charged. If he says he hasn't read everything, then he has to explain why he is making definitive statements about what the files do or don't contain. Either way, the credibility gap widens. Now here's what happens next. Massie has created a documented record. Those 4 articles he entered, those 20 names he listed, those questions about CIA files, they're all now part of the official congressional record. That means they can be referenced in future hearings, they can be cited in subpoenas, they can be used as the foundation for deeper investigations. Patel can't make them disappear. This isn't the first time someone has questioned the FBI about Epstein, but it might be the first time someone did it with this level of preparation, this level of specificity, and this level of public attention. Massie didn't grandstand, he didn't yell, he didn't perform for the cameras. He just asked clear, direct questions and let Patel's non-answers do the work, and that is why this will resonate. People are tired of performances. They're tired of politicians pretending to care while doing nothing. What they saw today was a congressman with actual documents, actual names, and actual determination to get actual answers. Whether those answers ever come is a different question, but the fact that they were asked on camera, on the record, in a way that can't be ignored, that matters. I need to pause here and say something important. If you've watched this far, you understand how significant this moment is. This isn't just another political hearing. This is a turning point in how the Epstein story gets told. So like this video, subscribe to this channel and share this with everyone you know. This conversation needs to grow. These questions need to be repeated until they're answered. And the only way that happens is if people like you refuse to let it fade away. Massie's final move was subtle but devastating. He connected the dots between the FBI's willingness to engage with social media influencers and its reluctance to engage with actual victims. That contrast isn't just bad optics. It is a fundamental betrayal of the people who suffered most. The message it sends is clear. The system values spectacle over substance, public relations over justice, and Massie made sure everyone saw it. Patel had no good answer for that. He couldn't, because there is no good answer. You can't defend meeting with influencers while avoiding survivors and claim you are prioritizing justice. It doesn't work. And Massie knew it wouldn't work, which is why he asked it. This is what preparation looks like. This is what oversight is supposed to be. Not grandstanding, not sound bites, but methodical, evidence-based questioning that exposes the gaps between what officials say and what officials do. Thomas Massie just showed the country what that looks like. And Kash Patel just learned that carefully rehearsed talking points don't hold up when someone actually reads the files and asks the right questions. 3 minutes. That is all it took, 3 minutes to put 20 names, 6 billionaires, 1 prince, 1 rock star, and a CIA file on the congressional record. 3 minutes to expose the fact that the FBI director hasn't personally reviewed the documents he is making sweeping statements about. 3 minutes to demonstrate that the system is still protecting someone, and everyone watching now knows it. Massie didn't need to shout. He didn't need to accuse. He just needed to ask. And sometimes in Washington, that is the most dangerous thing you can do.